Hi everyone, I'm America Josh, and thanks for tuning in again this week for our chats with Travel Josh Engstrom from Liberty Travel. G'day Josh, how are you?
G'day. I'm good. Hello, everyone.
Let's jump right in. We're going to keep these snappy every week. We're going to make sure we just get the most prudent information. As always, if people want to check out your latest article, you can go to americajosh.com/traveljosh, where other Travel Josh lets us know with a bit of an update on everything that we talk about today and a few extra details. And if you want to, you can go to that address to submit questions. So we have had a bunch of questions, but broadly, how are things looking in the travel and flight industry at the moment, Josh?
Yeah, in particular, when we talk about it, flights back to Australia, we did cover it last week that it's very tight and trying to get a flight home in the next month is almost impossible at the moment. So I had a look before I got on the call with you just to make sure, and I had a look throughout September trying to find flights from New York and also from LA to Sydney, and there's just no availability. There's a few business class seats scattered throughout the month, but that's pretty much it, which is, obviously going to make people feel quite anxious if they can't go home and they really need to go home. There are alternatives, so we can discuss those as well.
Okay, so for sure. So basically, if you are planning, sort of the general advice we've got at the moment, before we go into some of the details, is if you are planning to go back, you need to get onto that as early as possible. There's you can't delay.
Yeah, at the moment, I'd say at least a minimum 6 weeks in advance. And then I'd probably start pushing that as far and getting that booked in as close as soon as possible.
Okay, awesome. We did have a lot of questions around timetables and flight schedules and frequencies. And so do you want to jump in and give us a few details about what those, you said it's really tight, but how is that looking for an extended period?
Yeah, sure. I did a few schedules and looked up some schedules today. From what I can see, the current schedules that we've got at the moment with United and Delta will be staying quite similar for the foreseeable future. There is only a couple of days, for example, that you can connect on a flight with United from San Francisco.
So that's when the crossover from flying New York, San Francisco, is that what you mean? Sorry.
Yeah. So there's only a few days where the flights connect without having to do an overnight. So be on the lookout for those. You don't want to accidentally book a flight. I know when people are going through the United side or whatnot, it's easy to not see when it says an overnight stay or something like that. So just really be on the lookout when you're booking those flights. Otherwise, come to an agent or I can help you or whatnot. And then from what I can see, United going every day of the week from San Francisco. So that service has been going since all of this COVID has gone. So that's been fantastic. And then I can also see from LA, Delta continuing to fly Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. So that's just 3 days a week from LA. And then I suppose I could just jump on in there. We did get a question of someone asking about United flights from LA, and I can definitely answer that question as well. So United are going to start flying from LA. From what I can see, they're starting off just on Thursdays, so just 1 day a week. And then I believe as the schedule goes through October, November, they are looking to increase that, and they're looking to start to build that. So that's a really good sign for the Australians. The only way we're going to be able to get through the current nightmare of trying to get home from San Francisco or LA is to increase the amount of planes going in the sky. And that means the Australian government obviously has to increase the quota. So there's a few things that need to happen before we start going back to regularity. Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell me, so another question we had around sort of these flight schedules, a few people have obviously started looking into alternatives from the sort of major airlines that most people are familiar with. We did have one question from Bondi around how are New York to Sydney flights via Japan through All Nippon Airlines? Is there any feedbacks on being bumped or any feedback in general?
Yeah, I had a look at this in the scheduling, and from what I could see, I could only see actually JAL flying. I couldn't see a connection without doing an overnight through Japan, but that is an alternative that you can look at. So for JAL, for example, going from New York, you'd leave on a Wednesday. It only is flying on a Wednesday. to connect then onto a Thursday flight from Tokyo to Sydney. That's the only one I could find. With Al Nippon, when I looked into it, you're actually changing airports in Tokyo. So you're flying into Narita, but then you're flying out of Haneda. And I would definitely suggest probably not doing that as an alternative. But I did have a look at the JAL one, and the JAL one does connect. If you leave on Wednesday from New York, you can connect on a Thursday flight from the same airport, Narita.
Okay. Sorry, can you just repeat? Is it JAL? Just so I can put up the...
Yeah. Japan Airlines. JAL.
Japan Airlines. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Not a problem. I'll put that, I'm not always familiar with all of the airlines that are flying, so that's perfect.
There's so many acronyms. I get you.
I love it. Another one we had was around Qatar. So are Qatar flying into Sydney, Adelaide and Perth?
Well, a little bit of breaking news here, Josh. Actually, Qatar have just announced that they are quietly not taking any more future bookings to Australia. So we can confirm that here right now. So like you said, that's worrying, especially for people that need to get home in the next 3 to 4 weeks. That's going to be really difficult for them now. That is sad news, and I can definitely understand it from an airline perspective. The Australian market and airlines trying to get into Australia at the moment, it's very tricky for them because of the way the government has. And I suppose with limited planes, limited pilots, limited staff, they have to choose those markets and prioritise those markets where they're going to be able to be a little bit more consistent. So there are alternatives, though. We can have a look at Cathay Pacific via Hong Kong. That could be an option. Just be careful of Hong Kong at the moment and make sure you're keeping an eye on, they've got a bit of political unrest there at the moment. So just keep an eye on that. Be wary of that. Be cautious. That's safe to be cautious, I think. And also have a look at Singapore Airlines as an option because, they're flying into Australia as well.
Okay. In general, just as a sweeping question, is there anything else industry-wide that we should keep an eye out on for the upcoming few weeks?
I do have a little bit of good news. So American Airlines has announced that they intend to start flying again from LA to Sydney. I did have a look before I got on just to see if I could find any availability and actually hold some seats and get some pricing on whatnot. And as yet, it doesn't look like they have released the scheduling or have availability to book. But it doesn't take too long for an airline to set that up. So if they've announced it, it's definitely a watch your space, watch this space kind of thing, where we definitely hope that American Airlines resumes their service from LA to Sydney. That would be really good for us.
Wonderful. Yeah. Awesome. As we mentioned last week, to tidy everything up, I know a lot of people are starting to look a bit further into the holiday season, and last week you rated it at a code red, and that people should really start booking right now. How are things looking at the moment? Is that basically the same?
Yeah, well, I suppose in conjunction with the lack of availability, I just had a look then and I was still struggling to find any economy seats into October. By the time you get into October, it's only 8 weeks away. So I definitely start code red. Yep. If you need to go home for Christmas or you want to go home for Christmas, definitely get that booked.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Josh. We really appreciate you taking the time, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week, guys, and send any questions through, DM me, DM Josh, or just read my blog, and there's a handy little click button there where you can go and put your question in. So thanks a lot for your support. I've had some great feedback, so look forward to doing this again next week.
Fantastic. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, guys.